A lot of surprising things. I got to tell you, and maybe ufologists would probably look at me and say, "Look, you should have known, kid." But the Robertson panel documents I found shocking in that I've attended symposiums and I've done films on UFOs before. I'd never heard anyone speak about it. I've read books and the odd reference here or there, but never gone into in depth. And when you see things like they say, we will have an educational program that will involve training and debunking. Yeah. And one of the key methods, besides amateur astronomers, is, and I'll look directly at the camera, the mass media, yeah. Of which I am a part. Right. And they actually say documentary filmmakers, if well done, obviously bad documentaries wouldn't be helpful, but if you make good documentaries, those will be useful too. And it makes you wonder, and so I'm sitting in Aztec when I'm down there for this symposium, and I come back after showing the film, and it's just a coincidence, I'm sure, but I turn on CNN, and there's this sort of talking head, and she's running this story amidst the news items, and she says, oh, by the way, news out of California today that Bill Gates' partner in Microsoft or whatever, can never remember the guy's name.
Paul Allen.
Yeah, but the Bill Gates guy you never hear about, right? Multi-billionaire, has decided to donate $15 million to SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
Or silly effort to investigate, please.
Leaving aside whether SETI's a good idea or a bad idea, the point of him giving the money is he thinks it's a good idea and we should be looking for extraterrestrial life. Yeah. Stan would say it's the wrong way, but at least he thinks we should be looking for it. Yeah. So they give this report, and at the very end of the report, and you'd never hear them say anything like this about the war in Iraq or taxes or anything, she goes, and he's always had an interest in science fiction. Why she says that, I have no idea. It has no bearing on a serious news story. He's giving money to SETI, and she has to throw in this, oh, he's been interested in science fiction. You've immediately, Stan might say, tabloidized the story. I would say
does that take us back to the kook factor? I mean, does it...
yeah, sure.
But how can one call the University of California, Berkeley, who's going to accept the money and is building the facility, and Paul Allen, how can you call those two people kooks? I mean, Jill Tarter is out there now. I'm in severe disagreement with her about SETI. But certainly there's no kook factor there.
Yeah. Stan calls it the laughter curtain. People are afraid of the laughter curtain. If you're in a big audience at Stan's lectures, and he'll say, "Has anyone ever seen a UFO or anything like that?" I've been there. I've seen people look around before the hands go up. Yeah. I think that people are afraid that they'll be thought of as being sort of a little nutty if they say, you know what, I believe in this, or even worse, I've seen it. Yeah. And yet when you look at poll after poll, the greater the education, the more likely you are to believe. I've seen a lot of Stan's lectures. And polls show most people believe now that there is a UFO phenomenon and that alien life is possible.
Well, I was going to say, I've heard those very same things.
Television show.
So what's the big deal? Why not? Why doesn't the government come out and say, okay, yeah, you got us?
Well, the government has its reasons. What's even worse is the failure of the news media and the scientific community to do their jobs. The government, you can understand, is worried about technology. How do the darn things work? They make wonderful weapons delivery systems. Yeah. Certain people in government like to have the power they have. They would hate everybody to start thinking of themselves as earthlings, wouldn't they? Nationalism's the only game in town.
Sure, yeah.
The religious right has long said this is the work of the devil, and they'd be up the creek without a religious paddle. Yeah. I think that the scientific community has looked at it from a different viewpoint, along with the news media. They've taken the approach that, look, we are so smart, we keep up with what's important in this world. If Earth was being visited by aliens, that would be important. Nobody denies that. But if we're important, we would know about it, and we don't, so it must not be, so there's no sense wasting our valuable time and money on this. That's been the attitude of the New York Times, the Washington Post, many members of the National Academy of Sciences, frankly. And it takes guts. There have only been about a dozen PhD theses done on UFOs. Yeah. There's far more than enough material to do 50 of them. One of them, incidentally, was about the press coverage of this subject and had some strong language to say about the inadequacy of that. Yeah. I've been saying for many years, if any major news group would spend 10% of what was spent on covering the Monica Lewinsky, Gary Condit, Elian Gonzalez stories, O.J. Simpson, the important stories of
Heidi
our time.
Fleiss, all those real big
10% of that would get the job done in 6 months if they start with people like me and several of the others that Paul talked to in the movie.
Yeah. What was the reaction of your counterparts, your peers, in making a documentary about UFOs?
I never talked to those guys. Crooked bunch, those filmmakers. The funny thing is, it's become a bit of a cottage industry, as one critic said in Halifax. There's two of us, which is actually a lot for doing UFO films.
Yeah.
Mike MacDonald, who I view as a colleague as opposed to competitor, did a film a couple years ago called The Shag Harbor UFO Incident.
Yes, yes.
About, they say, Canada's Roswell down in Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia.
Stamp coming out about that, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
Posting out a stamp.
Yep. Which means it must have happened,
well,
because
there
the
you
government
go.
says it.
Hey, government's justifying it, so.
Don't get me started on Canada Post. But he's done one. I think he's working on another series of 2 films right now. There's 2 ufologists in Halifax, Chris Stiles, Don Ledger. Most people that I talk to say, well, good for you. You know, A, I get to travel. I get to go to all these cool places like northern New Mexico and see rattlesnakes. And B, when they watch the films, they say, yeah, you've made an interesting case. Maybe we should pay a little more attention to this. And then they go back to doing whatever it is they do. I want to interrupt you right here. Unlike filmmaking, we have to take a short break. You're watching Melanson Live. We're talking about UFOs in the documentary Do You Believe in Magic, airing on the Space, the Imagination Station on April the 28th. Check your local listings for time. Don't go away. We'll be back.